Joy
Yeah.
is shaking her head. Yes, please.
Yes.
Okay.
It's very confusing.
Yes. So we at the all team meeting, just to give everybody context, we had talked about the buyer compensation disclosure and the cooperating broker compensation agreement, and how those were different forms and both needed to be done in each transaction. And Joy had mentioned in the meeting if we could do a training on commissions and cooperating agreements in particular, because I know it's very confusing with all of the pieces and all of the forms that need to be done with who gets paid what and how they get paid and where it comes from and all of those things. Um, so my thought process was that uh, I would start with the forms that determine how we get paid first, and then we would jump into how to confirm payment and how to disclose that to who it needs to be disclosed to. Does that sound okay to you guys? Yeah?
Yes, good to me. Yeah.
All right. Perfect. At any time, interrupt me. You can always ask questions. I'm going to share my screen. Perfect. Oh, I want to see your guys' faces. There we go.
So I guess I want to know what's the like most common, like
Hmm,
most common that we would use the most commonly, and maybe
sure.
that one because, we will use it the most.
Right? Absolutely. Well, you're not going to like my answer.
Okay.
It depends on your market and it depends on how you want to run your business. And so a couple pieces with that. In the before time, before the lawsuit, we always did cooperating broker compensation. It was in the MLS, everybody had access to it. So your contract with your buyer, it allowed you to represent them, but it didn't determine your pay. Or at least that's how most people handled their buyer representation agreements. Now, per the buyer representation contract, we cannot get paid any more than what's on the buyer's rep agreement. Number one. Number two, the North Star or the MLS rules. We're not allowed, even if we are giving cooperating broker compensation as listing agents, we're not allowed to advertise that on the MLS. So we need an extra agreement now between the listing agent and the buyer's agent if they are offering cooperating broker compensation. And that's that cooperating broker piece.
So
Okay.
is this like only when you're the listing broke the listing contract? Is it typically just when you're listing, not when you're the buyer, correct?
So when you're having like if you're talking about client to client, when you're having that
Mhm.
conversation, you should still be talking about cooperating broker compensation with both, right? And
But it's
again,
usually the listing person who pays or offers it to a buyer, not the other way around.
um, correct.
Mhm.
Correct. Yes, for cooperating broker compensation. Now, for your buyers, the conversation needs to be around some brokers offer cooperating broker,
Right.
some of them don't.
Mhm.
If we need to ask in the purchase agreement for the seller to pay your fee, Mr. Buyer, we can do that within the purchase agreement. It'll just be part of the terms. And so that becomes seller concessions instead of cooperating broker.
Oh, okay.
Hmm.
That's confusing too.
Yes.
Because the concessions cooperating, it's like, and of course they both have to start with a C.
Yes, they do. You are right. Um, okay,
And
so
then some
yeah.
listing, some sellers say go ahead and tell them, and some don't, and
Hmm.
right?
Yep. So with cooperating broker,
Hmm.
we have the right to tell the other agent on the other side, no matter what. Okay. With the concessions, the seller has to either grant us access, grant us permission to share that they're willing to look at an offer with concessions.
Oh,
This does,
okay. So hold on a second. You said so with cooperating broker agreements, we
mm-hmm,
can automatically share?
mm-hmm,
Okay. So we don't
yes.
like need an additional permission.
Nope. For
Cooperating?
concessions, yeah, for
Agreement.
concessions you do. For
Okay.
cooperating broker compensation, you don't need additional permission from the seller.
You
Uh,
automatically have permission from the seller to disclose that they're
what
offering. Okay.
whatever amount that you put into whatever the amount that you and your seller feel is fair, right?
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Hmm.
That's helping. Okay.
Okay, good. I like this.
Hmm.
Um, so in the listing contract, in the compensation part, talks about the full commission, right? And then we go down to pick one of the following. One of them is broker compensation. One of them is seller concessions. Okay. Seller concessions doesn't need an amount.
So cooperating broker compensation is the cooperating
Mhm.
broker agreement that you were talking about?
Right. That's where it's linked to. Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Compensation.
S-
Okay.
So let's say the seller goes ahead and says, yep, we want to offer cooperating broker compensation. Our agent was paid by the seller when we bought, so we're just going to continue that process. And we don't really want it to be a term in the purchase agreement, so we're just going to offer it up front. Okay. So you
Gotcha.
would fill these out, right?
And that's why you can go ahead and disclose it because it's already in the listing agreement.
Correct. Yep. And so you would fill that out to be whatever you guys decide is fair for the buyer's agent on the other side, whatever makes sense to you and the seller. And then you would add this amount to your total compensation. So say
Wait,
you were
go
getting
back up. Why is there two threes?
one of,
3% the
yep,
selling price, 3% of the selling price.
yep. So you got to keep reading a little bit. 3% of the selling price to the
The
cooperating broker
cooperating broker
representing
representing the buyer.
or to the cooperating broker assisting the buyer. So either they have a representation contract with the buyer or they have a facilitator agreement with the buyer.
Oh, okay.
That's the difference between these two.
Where's the or?
There isn't an or because the check boxes become the or. So
Oh,
if
so
you,
you don't check both, you just check one?
nope, it depends. Again, depends on your business. You can check both,
Okay.
which is what we normally see, is that both are checked. Agents usually don't care if the agent on the other side is representing or assisting. They don't
Because you
care.
can't have both. It'd be one or the other automatically.
Yes. Yep, that's exactly.
So you don't have to worry
Um,
about paying 6%. Okay.
right. So
Okay.
now there are some agents out there
Hmm.
who do not like who will pay a facilitating buyer's agent a
Hmm.
different amount than a
Hmm.
representing buyer's agent.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Because they're
Because
not doing as much
not
generally.
supposed to, right?
Mhm.
Not supposed to. Anyway, yep.
Okay.
90% of the time we see these numbers as the same.
Okay.
They're usually both 3%.
Okay.
Not 3%. They're usually both the same percentage.
What are
Yeah.
they usually? Three, two,
Mm.
one?
Depends anywhere between I've seen 1.9 all the way up to 3.2
Okay.
in our brokerage in particular, right? So
Okay.
for all of you watching in YouTube land, this does not mean that you should be charging that, or I should be telling you what you should be charging, but that's what we see within our brokerage.
And this in no way comes out of any of our commission. This comes out of the seller's proceeds.
This comes out of the total commission that you are charging to the seller. So how that works is
Hmm.
you have the conversation with your seller about the services they want and
Okay.
the amount that you're going to charge them, whatever that be, right?
Oh,
So
okay.
let's and then and then In this line on line 120, if they're willing to offer cooperating broker compensation, you would add that amount
Mhm.
to your listing amount.
Okay. So if I'm
And
saying
that's
3%, I would add that other 3%, and down on 120, it would have to be 6%.
correct.
Okay.
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Like for one
Yep.
client, I'm doing 2.5% just because of that certain client. So then if he's offering 3% to a buyer, then I'd put 5.5% at that line.
Right.
Okay. Okay. All right. That makes sense. Okay.
Yes.
Uh,
Yep. That's
Sorry,
exactly.
Regina. I'm so new at this.
No,
You're-
it's all confusing, but
Yes.
Katie's doing a wonderful job.
Yes, she always
Okay.
does.
This. Um, Perfect. Okay. So, and this is why I wanted to go through all the pieces because it is confusing. It's not great.
Okay.
Then your other option is that your seller wants to offer just seller concessions. And in that case, you don't set an amount. You would just click that button saying that the seller's willing to look at offers that have a concession to buyer's agent cost. Okay. And then you and your seller have a conversation about whether or not you, as the agent, should disclose that. Yes, my sellers are open to, in the purchase agreement, a compensation conversation, or or nope, you'll have to put it in the offer and we'll see what they say. Most of the time, the seller agrees, right? They're willing to offer concessions or at least look at an offer, right? Any good enough offer, sellers are usually willing to pay depending on the offer. It just depends on the terms, right?
Okay.
So that's that
So
piece
for
with the
this
listing.
one, for the
Mm-hmm.
second, okay, stop there. Don't move it.
Yeah,
I'm trying to read it. It's like, ah.
right.
Um, so for this second one, buyer to request offers of compensation and purchase agreement. All
Mm-hmm.
that's saying is that we might, depending on the offer, we're not offering it, but we might have that conversation if the purchase agreement is high enough.
Right.
Okay, then so that's the first box by the or. And then
Mm-hmm.
this other box where your green is that you're giving permission to your agent to say it.
To say that the seller's willing to
They're
look at
willing to
all
have the
offers.
conversation and look at it.
Right.
Okay.
Which 99% of sellers are like, well, yeah, good enough offer. I'll pay whatever the buyer's agent cost is, right? Which is why
Is
this is
that
usually does.
is that more common, this second one, than the first one, the cooperating broker compensation?
Yeah, again, it depends on which brokerage you're working with, but this
Mhm.
one is becoming much more common. It is one, less paperwork. It two, gives your seller the ability to negotiate a seller concession instead of setting a set price, right?
Mhm.
Because if you set a set price, let's just use random numbers. If you set a set price of 15% to the buyer's agent, but that buyer's agent is willing to take 7%, well, you've now given up money that could have been in your seller's pocket if you had gone through the seller concessions part. So that's the argument for
Okay,
seller
say that again.
concessions.
Why are you using 15%? That's,
Because I don't because of trust issues, we can't talk about percentages specifically,
oh, so
right?
you're using a ridiculous
Just
number.
using
Okay.
random numbers. That's exactly because you
Okay.
have to
Okay.
set your commission with your
Okay.
clients
Okay.
regardless of what everybody else is doing, right?
Okay.
Yes.
So if you set that number in the first part, the cooperating broker, then it's set and you can't negotiate later and
Right.
oh,
Yep,
okay.
that's how that works. Whereas seller concessions, you just wait to see what it is in the purchase agreement, and then you're able to negotiate, the seller's able to negotiate with the buyer, depending on the other terms of the purchase agreement.
Okay.
Now, the other piece of that, right? So the opposite view of that on why you should do cooperating broker compensation, which I don't agree with, but why you should do it is because then that takes one negotiating piece out of the purchase agreement, right? We have a lot of things that we negotiate within the purchase agreement. And where if you do cooperating broker, then it's upfront. Everybody knows buyer can make their decision about if about paying their agent or not paying their agent, depending on what the seller's offering. And then it's out of the purchase agreement. It's one less negotiating piece
And
that
I
you have to worry
suppose
about.
it's sometimes appealing to certain buyers and might hook certain people to say, "Ooh, they're gonna pay," you know.
I the thought process, yeah, you would think so. But as an agent, I mean, that was the argument with the lawsuit that putting the commission online, or
Mhm.
the buyer's agent commission online, um, would change which properties agents would show to their buyers.
Mm.
Okay, because this one's only paying 7% and that one's paying 16%. Well, I'm not even going to send the buyer the 7% one. I'll show them the 16. That's
Mhm.
not actually how it works. So while the thought process makes sense, that's
Mhm.
not actually how it worked, because do you
Right,
pick the property the buyer buys, or does the buyer
right.
pick it?
Right, the buyer does. And if a good agent explains this to their client, it shouldn't
Hmm.
matter. But if it's
Yes.
a, say, a new, new home buyer who's never
Hmm.
done this before, and if the agent doesn't do their due diligence and explain it well, I could see how some people looking at it would be like, "Ooh, you know."
Right.
Yeah,
Yep, that's exactly. You must have steered your buyers to these higher
yeah.
commissions, these higher percentages. And when we look
So,
at the numbers as a whole, that's not what
mhm.
happens.
Right. So you
Yeah.
have to be well versed in explaining why A, it wouldn't matter, or why B might even be better.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly. Depending on. So
Which is
I
why
would
we need
say
this training.
yes. So most of the state has been moving to this seller concessions.
Okay.
Just FYI, right?
Okay.
Um, and so you do whatever's best for your business. That's why we give both options in our Coldwell Banker listing contract. Um, but most agents have been moving to the seller concessions. Okay. Then we're going to hop back to cooperating broker compensation real quick. In as a listing agent, right? So put on your listing agent hat. If your seller is offering cooperating broker compensation, before the offer is given to you as the listing agent, you need to have a signed cooperating broker compensation agreement. Okay. This is the agreement that we lost when they took this percentage off the MLS. Okay. When it was on the MLS, we all signed on to the MLS saying we agree to pay whatever we post to the buyer's agent online. That was our agreement. Well, that's gone away now, and this has taken its place. So, as a listing agent, if you hear one of your agents, one of the buyer's agents is going to write an offer on your property, and your seller is offering cooperating broker compensation, you need to send over this form for you and them to sign saying, yep, I know your buyer, whoever the buyer is, right, is writing an offer. Here's what we're offering as cooperating broker compensation.
So
Now
the
that,
listing agent's duty is to take this form, fill it out, and sign it,
hmm
and then send it over to the buyer's agent
hmm
before the offer
hmm
is made.
yes. Now, that is how it should work, is that's not always how it really works in real life.
Okay.
But yes, that is the right way, the right process to do this, which is again why a lot of listing agents are going to sellers' concessions because it takes one less form off their plate.
What if like an offer comes in and you didn't know it was coming in and you
And,
haven't sent this yet?
Yep. And so that happens. What ends up happening is the listing agent. So two things end up happening. Um, the buyer's agent will then usually put into the purchase agreement their commission amount that they're asking for, right? Through the buyer, of course, because it's the
Mhm.
buyer's contract at the end of the day. But if if your brokerage is already offering cooperating broker compensation, the right thing as the listing agent to do is to send a counter offer, removing the compensation from the purchase agreement and sending this form, this
Oh,
cooperating broker form saying, yep, this is what we're paying buyer's agents.
okay.
Okay.
Mm. Yeah, that's a headache.
Again, which is why a lot of people are going to seller concessions.
Okay.
Okay.
Hmm.
Yep. And again, it with boots on the ground, things happen just like that, right? You you don't know that they're writing an offer because they saw it 2 weeks ago, and then all of a sudden the offer's in your inbox, right? It happens. Um, but once we sign this, if
Hmm.
that buyer closes on the property, we are required to pay them whatever amount that we've put in there. Okay.
Okay.
So that's from the listing side. Now from the buyer's side.
Okay.
So our contracts, we have two different contracts, listing contract, buyer's contract. Our payment is determined by those contracts and those contracts only. The only difference becomes where that payment comes from. Okay. So the listing contract payment comes from one source, it comes from the seller. Easy peasy. The buyer's representation contract can come from three different sources. Okay. Can come from the listing brokerage through cooperating compensation. It can come from the seller directly as seller concessions, or it can come from your buyer directly if that's what they've chosen to do. Okay.
So the buyer's contract is who's paying me,
Yes, the buyer
right?
is contracting with you to
Okay,
pay
I'm helping a
you.
buyer to buy a property. The
Yep.
buyer can pay me my fee
Yep. Directly.
and
Nobody
directly
else.
when we close.
Yep.
So they're paying the percent, or
Yes.
the seller can pay it directly through the seller concessions,
Yes.
or the uh, listing brokerage can pay it through the compensation agreement.
Yes. Yes. Yep. You're absolutely right.
Okay.
Okay. You ready for me to throw a curveball at you?
No.
Uh, oh, well, too bad. Here it comes.
Okay.
You can get paid from all three of those options in one transaction,
That sounds good.
right? Now, the total amount can't be any more than what's on your buyer's representation contract. You cannot receive anything more than that amount that we put on line 30
I
that
did
you
know
and your
that.
buyer, yep, that you and your buyer agree to. Okay. But part of the conversation that we had in the all team was that this disclosure statement to the buyer has to be done. And it is a state requirement that before a buyer signs an offer to purchase, they have to know how you're getting compensated based
Mhm.
on the buyer's rep contract, right? And so we do that by using the disclosure statement, compensation disclosure to buyer. Okay, that's the form that we use.
And that's this one?
This is the buyer's rep. This one is the disclosure
Disclosure
statement,
statement, compensation to buyer.
compensation to, yes.
So
And you
this
can,
is a third, is this a third sheet that you've shown us now?
well, this would be the fourth listing contract, buyer's rep, cooperating broker, disclosure to buyer. So this would be the fourth.
Feel like I should have had all four of these in front of me when we started this, so I could like see them all.
Right? So you can see them, feel them,
Mhm.
touch them.
I'm a
Yeah,
visual.
that's just fine.
Okay.
And so you
Sorry,
can
can you
see,
scroll up? This one's called the, sorry,
nope, that's fine.
compensation
Yep,
disclosure. Okay.
yep,
Disclosure statement. Okay. Thanks.
yep. No problem.
So we have to have this sheet
Before your buyer signs an offer for a property.
for
Yep,
every single property.
yep. So if
We
they
have
write
to have
800
that
offers, you have to have one of these for
disclosure
every 800 of those offers. Yep.
statement. Okay. So no matter who it comes from, we have to have this form in our purchase agreement or before or
So this one will only go to the buyer, right? It doesn't
okay.
go to the listing agent
Okay.
or the seller. This is just your disclosure to the buyer saying for this particular purchase agreement,
Okay.
this is how I'm going to be paid, so your fee is covered.
Okay. Compensation disclosure agreement? Oh,
It's
to
really
buyer
just a
tenant. Okay.
disclosure. Yeah.
To
Yeah.
buyer.
So
Okay.
because your agreement is your buyer's rep,
Okay.
and this is just a disclosure.
Must be done with every per before any PA.
Yep. And just like seller's property disclosures, you can have
Okay.
it all in the same authenticine,
Okay.
but they need to be before the actual contents of the offer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So it must be done before any purchase agreement, and it's only between you and your buyer.
Yes.
Okay.
Hmm.
Okay. But the
Okay.
thing is that you don't know yet at that point how much people are paying.
Yep.
Is that the question that was brought up at that?
So that was, yes, that's part of why we brought it up at the all team because there now there are times where you're going to do multiple of these with every
Mhm.
counter offer that your buyer signs,
Gotcha.
right? Because it's in the purchase agreement. If you're negotiating that piece from the seller,
Hmm.
it's going to change every time, which is why Christine had said, make sure you turn in all of them so that
Hmm.
when the state comes down and says, did you do this at the beginning of the purchase agreement? We have that line, right? We have that progression. Because it
Yes, you
could,
did it 8 times.
which happens. It does. Absolutely.
Okay,
We
okay.
hope not, but yeah,
Hmm.
it does.
Okay.
Um,
All right.
yeah, yeah, every time. And you can see from this form those three buckets on how you can get paid, right?
Right.
From the listing broker. So this is that cooperating compensation, which will
Hmm.
be a part of that separate agreement. From the seller, which is the seller concession. So this will be in the
Hmm.
purchase agreement
Hmm.
or directly from the buyer.
It seems like the from the listing broker and from the seller are kind of the same thing.
They're not. Oh,
Hmm.
I know. I get your thought process because it's coming from the same pool of money,
Exactly.
right? That's what your thought process is,
Yeah.
but it's actually whose name is on the check. Like
Mhm.
that's how you have to think about it. It's
Yeah.
either the listing broker's name on the check paying you as the buyer's agent, or it's the seller's name on the check paying you as the seller. So yes, well, it's all coming from the same pool of money, which you could
Hmm.
argue the buyer is the one who brought the money to the table, right? The seller
Yeah.
doesn't have a liquid asset.
Right.
The buyer has the liquid asset. So you
Yeah.
have to think about it and who's writing you the check.
Yeah.
Yep. Because it used to be before closing companies were the ones who paid all of the agents, that the listing broker would receive the whole amount of commission, and then the listing broker would pay
Divvy it
the other
out. Mhm.
brokerage
Yeah.
themselves. Right.
Like the 7% or No, I mean, I'm sorry, 17% or
There you go, right? Yes.
yeah. Okay.
Yes. Okay. I
Okay.
think I think that covers all of it. You seem you seem better. You seem a little
Yeah.
bit more confident
No,
about
a lot better. Yeah.
okay, perfect. That's
I
good.
didn't even know about this sheet.
Ah, okay. Yep. And we've had a lot of agents argue with us lately because usually the numbers on here on this disclosure statement are the same numbers that are on the cooperating broker compensation agreement. So we've had a lot of agents arguing that they don't need to do both of
Mm.
these forms. And
But
we've
if
had
they
to,
don't have a Christine to get on them,
yes, exactly. Or me, I can't tell you how many arguments I've had with agents in my office recently, is that what, and the difference is this is signed by the brokers,
hmm
right?
hmm
This is from seller's broker to buyer's broker. You both agree to it.
Right.
Okay. This is to fulfill
Between you and
your,
your client.
yes,
I got it.
exactly.
I
Yep.
understand.
Um, and so both are needed.
Yep.
Hmm.
Okay, I'm putting a big star next to that.
Okay.
hmm
Um, I love
So
it.
the buyer's contract,
Yep.
which would be um, listing broker through compensation agreement, selling directly, seller's concessions, or the buyer himself.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And the buyer's contract is the one between me and my client.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. And then I also need the disclosure statement.
Um, right.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. And then what was the one that goes to the, oh, that's the compensation agreement?
That from the listing agent to the buyer's agent.
Yeah.
So
Oh, that's on the
yes.
purchase agreement.
Uh, nope. It's
Listing. I
yep.
don't know what that
Cooperating. Yep. So the cooperating broker
broker
compensation agreement
compensation agreement. And is that
is
always required?
only if your seller is paying out cooperating broker compensation.
Operating broker compensation agreement. Okay.
Yep.
And if they're doing seller concessions,
Then you don't need that form.
then I don't need that form, but I would
Nope.
still need my disclosure statement with my client.
Yes, with your buyer client. Yep.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yep.
I think
Because
I
it
think I'm wrapping my head around this.
mm, yes, it's definitely new and different.
Mhm.
And there are still agents out there who do not understand, right? They say
Right.
on the phone, we're
Mhm.
offering cooperating broker compensation, but just
Mhm.
put it in the purchase agreement.
Oh, no,
Well,
that would be seller's concessions.
it's exactly. Yep. And so that's not what it is.
hmm
They're using the wrong terminology.
hmm
Okay.
Yeah.
And we can't do anything about that,
Well, they could
right?
watch the video.
They could watch my video and I would love it. I would love to do a whole teaching to all
Yeah,
agents all
there you
over the
go.
place. Um,
Your own YouTube channel.
right. And yes,
Go
and to
viral.
know the difference. That's exactly. There are three buckets.
Hmm.
And so and, and so I don't know if the state is going to start changing contracts as things move around. Um, because the state tends to follow whatever trends are happening
Hmm.
within all of the associations,
Okay.
and then they change their forms to go with
Reflect
the
that. Hmm.
yeah, that's
Okay.
exactly. Yep.
Okay.
Um, and so I don't
Thank
know.
you. Yeah, oh, you're such a good trainer.
Oh,
I think
good.
your mind and my mind are so similar with how we are like sequential and first this, then this. I've
Yes.
learned so well from you.
Right. Well, and here's the deal. This was I'm usually pretty easy to pick up on different concepts and contractual
Mhm.
things, and it just clicks in my brain. This one, when we changed to this one a couple years ago,
Yeah.
I went to three separate trainings with three separate trainers because I was not getting it. I was not
Mhm.
understanding. And after the third one, I finally sat down with the teacher who was one of the lawyers from the Minnesota Association. And I was like, I got to do exactly what you're doing right now, Joy. I got to
Mhm.
ask you questions. We got to go slow. I got to ask you as we go through, and I need real life examples to put this into
And
process.
I took tons of notes.
Love it. Good. Good. So I'm not surprised, and I don't mind explaining this 800 different times because I had trouble with it stacking in my brain, getting that knowledge center to work the right
Yeah.
way.
It's a little
Um,
abstract and I'm more concrete. Mhm.
right. That's exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And the other piece is that it's different when you're on the ground, right? When your
Mhm.
boots on the ground.
There's some
And
fluidity to it and it can change and it's all kind of, oh,
there
yeah.
is, yeah.
Mhm.
So as long as we're legal and ethical,
Yeah. Okay.
always, then we're fine. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Well, cool. I thought that was going to take the whole hour, but we're actually 20 minutes
No,
short.
I don't even
So,
have any more questions.
okay. All right.
I might later, but not right now. So,
I will be there. Yep. I guarantee you will have later. Um, because everybody does. Hmm.
thank you so much.
Of course, not a problem. Did you have anything else you wanted to go over in the meantime?
No, I think that'll be enough
Okay.
processing for today.
Yes, that's fair. Yes, no
Um,
problem.
I think I'm gonna go get those
Um,
forms and have them in front of me and look them over and
yeah,
while it's fresh and yeah, go from there.
perfect. Yeah, all right. Well, if you have questions as you're going over them, don't hesitate to call.
Okay, thank you,
Okay.
ma'am.
Yep, thank you. Bye.
Bye.